Welcome to Can't Shovel Hurricanes.
I love that name, by the way.
Thank you. It's the Canadians that understand you can't shovel hurricanes. It's a play on words. But you are another transplant. Well, not officially a transplant. You are temporarily a transplant. I have with me Erica Gelman, from the president and CEO, boss lady of Erica Gelman Designs. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. And now you are on freedom soil. And I say that to everybody who comes down to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You're here on vacation.
Yes.
And everyone comes down here from around this time, specifically from our neck of the woods, feels that there's a big difference between being in Toronto versus now, not just the weather,
mm-hmm.
right? But we've known each other for actually quite a bit of time, intermittently, friends that have crossed paths. Your hubby and I have had run-ins and then relationship, things come a long way. And now I'm here and you're here as well.
Yes.
Tell me, what's it like touching down in Florida versus what the climate's like in Toronto at the moment?
Honestly, when we come often, this is probably my fourth time this year.
Really?
And apparently the weather was not great. And everyone was like complaining about, oh my God, it's going to be so cold. And I was just like, I don't care. I want to get down there. And I was saying to my husband yesterday, when do you ever hear me? And, we go to the Caribbean often too, like just sit there and be like, I'm so happy to be here.
Right.
And like, that's literally how I feel when I'm in Florida. I'm so happy to be here. It's everything. Even if I'm sitting here wearing a sweatshirt, but I don't have snow on my driveway at home. And so I'm watching in our cameras and it snowed the day we left. So
I don't miss it.
No. Just the sun, it just makes me happier. It really does. Like, I know it sounds so corny, but it's really just like there's something about landing here, being here, the vibe, the people. And yesterday we ran into 1 million people. We were at Bell Harbor and I looked at one of my friends and I was like, this is why I love Florida in December.
Have you run into people that you know yet? By accidentally, not by design. Yeah, right?
Yeah, tons of people.
So this is what people don't really get a lot of the times. It depends what area of, like, South Florida is big, right? Like I'm in Boca, I'm in suburbia. Right. When you head further south into like South Beach, Miami, Ventura, Hollywood, Hallandale, like you will for sure and inevitably, especially during this time of the season, run into people that you know. The difference is for you and I, like I'm here now, you're not, but at least for now, and I don't know what your intentions are, but you have a ton of friends that have moved down here. What are they telling you their reason was to move?
Oh, some of my friends moved or even had the thought and the intention when the lockdowns happened. And I feel like that was big for everybody.
Right.
That was their huge escape. Like, we have to get out. And one of my very good friends, you know them as well, they really felt like they had no choice, like that they needed to leave. And same thing for them. Like their life has completely changed. Their environment has changed where they live, just like the community that they live in. And they said the same thing. Like, they're so much more happier. They're so much more at peace being here. But I feel like a lot of people, especially during our first lockdown, and like, I don't know, I don't think that unless you were in Toronto, I don't think that people really understood how bad it was.
They have no clue.
Like, you were in jail. Like, there's no better way of putting it. You could not leave your house. People were scared to go to the park. People were, and this is obviously during like lockdown, and then they started making it a little bit more free. They gave us a little bit of rope.
Right.
And then even that, like, you couldn't walk into a restaurant without showing your Vax card, and you couldn't do anything. Like, and
the Vax card.
The Vax card. Like, you were under very, very, very strict guidelines of what you could and could not do. And I think that a lot of people needed that break. They needed to break out of here. They needed to escape. They needed to get their freedom back, which sounds so crazy.
Insane.
Like, it sounds crazy to even say that they need to get their freedom back in 2020, living in Canada.
When I talk to Floridians, I'm like, we had lockdowns too. I'm like,
No.
For how long? They say, we had it for about 8 to 12 weeks. I'm like, we had it for 2 years. And it was nothing like the lockdowns that you had
No.
here. It is not even in the same stratosphere.
No.
For you as well, it's magnified and amplified exponentially when you have little kids. What do you do with them? You know, in the beginning, it was also scary.
Yes.
But we actually, coincidentally, now I think about it, we ended up seeing each other at Dominican, right? That was like peak COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was when the Omicron virus came out. And why I remember that so vividly is because every single person that we were on vacation with ended up getting COVID, and they ended up getting the virus while we were all there, and for like a day.
We all had it.
Everybody.
Multiple times.
Oh, I personally, like, I actually had COVID when I was 9 months pregnant. I delivered on day 10. I walked into the hospital and my doctor obviously knew what was happening. And so they're reading off of, did you have this symptom, this symptom, this symptom? And I'm like, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm on day 10 of COVID, and they froze. Like, it was.
What are they going to do? Like, baby can't come out now? Like,
well, they basically put me in the corner. They brought down people in hazmat suits, took us in a private elevator. And here's the.
Did you have to go by yourself?
Okay. So Aviv was with me. And it's funny because he all of a sudden started getting a tickle in his throat, and he would go to the bathroom and flush the toilet and cough. And
lunacy.
So then they tried to kick him out, and they brought security guards into. This is me delivering my third child. And I say that I am so grateful that it was my third, because it would have been traumatizing if it was my first, and probably my second too. But they brought in security. They tried to get him out. And while the security is in the room, while I am in labor, so my blood pressure starts elevating, baby's blood pressure starts decreasing, or heartbeat starts decreasing. And they're like, everyone out right now. We need to get this baby out. Baby came out in like a few seconds, and security guards are literally standing like they stepped out of the room, but they tried to tell Aviv, and you know my husband very well, that they're going to show him the birth via Zoom on an iPad.
Oh, stop.
He's like, yeah, okay, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. So then they said, okay, we'll let him stay with you while we get you cleaned up and the baby cleaned up, but he's not coming in the room with you. Here's the best part. I actually love telling the story because it's just so insane. So they did not have a private room for me. So they put me in a room with another family.
With COVID.
While
you had
COVID. And they put me with a brand new newborn and a family who probably had no idea I had COVID. That was okay.
Right.
But having my husband stay, and
that's not a problem.
That was the problem. And then here it gets even better. One of my girlfriends was a nurse at that hospital at that time. And she said, you want to laugh? They registered you as a COVID patient. So
oh my God. Oh, you were there for labor.
Yes.
So you were part of the statistics.
Yes. So she went into the computer, and so nobody wanted to come into the room. So they did put like a hazard sticker on our door. But meanwhile, there's still another family in the room. They wouldn't bring me food. They're like, we'll have to see if there was a couple nurses that were kind of like, we're good. Like, we'll take care of you. One nurse brought me a granola bar. That was I'm like, I got to take pills. I just had a baby. My legs were still numb from my epidural. I'm by myself. My baby's crying. I stood up. Like, I literally got out of bed, stood up to take my baby out. And then I just kept her with me on my bed the whole time.
It's that sort of bullshit hypocrisy that was manipulated. And then we were, just like a lot of things that's happening in the world today, we were catering to a tiny minority of people that were anxious and upset. And we turned the entire world upside down to appease those very, very few. In the beginning, I get it was crazy. We didn't know.
Absolutely. I was probably one of those people. I was scared.
So was I.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what the effects that it was going to have on people, I have an elderly grandmother. I have a mom who's in her 60s. I lost my dad the year before. It was a very scary, not to COVID. I'm
sure you might have been knocked down, put in as a COVID patient. My dad might have as well. I lost him a couple of months.
Well, because he passed away in 2019.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I honestly, I almost thank God that he did pass away in 2019 because I don't know how his treatments would have gone or if he would have been seen by doctors. Or
I didn't know that. We went through the same story. My dad passed away in December 2019, right before
right
COVID.
before. Well, mine died March, like the exactly 1 year before.
Can you imagine what it was cancer for my dad?
Mine too.
Can you imagine what treatment would have been like?
Oh,
We would have had to choose whether we get to see our families or our babies or our parents.
Yeah.
You know, and we were given no choices between flying, going outside. I remember sneaking people into your house. I don't know if you did that. I did that. Right. And then you had neighbors who were nosy and like there's extra people in your house. And why did they show up? Canada is unrecognizable.
Yes.
All right. Now, you have a hugely successful, very cross-border sort of business. Would you consider, and tell people what you do, would you consider moving?
Yes.
Why?
That is definitely my goal. Right now, we are working. So to kind of go back to your first question, like tell people what we do. So
Right.
I run an interior design business. We do everything from builds, new builds, renos, full decorating projects. So we cater to high-end interior design clients.
I've seen some of the stuff that you do on Instagram. It's crazy. Like,
I know.
It's beautiful. It's crazy though.
I know.
Amazing.
I'm very, again, I'm not going to say that I'm lucky because I literally started, like me and my mom laugh about this all the time. But when I first started, I was like, I want to go into design. I had no one around me, no one that knew anything about design. My parents are immigrants, like their bubble, like their circle wasn't people who are hiring designers.
Correct.
So me and my mom, when I graduated design school, handed out flyers. Nobody called me because nobody hires an interior
There's a lot
designer.
to be said of being able to do stuff like that.
Like we went door to door and I thought like, oh, I'm going to go into like a fancier neighborhood. I went to like Atkinson, like Arnold area.
Right.
So Ronan obviously knows where the area is. If you don't, it's like bigger houses, like within
Sure.
within
acreage lots, like it's big.
So I handed out flyers. Like I made flyers. I went to like what's it called, Instaprint? No, Vistaprint.
Vistaprint.
Vistaprint. I made flyers and we handed them out. And me and my mom went door to door. Again, nobody called me.
How old were you?
23 maybe.
It's pretty ballsy of you go and do that. Not only from the fact that it's not an easy thing to do. It's like it's an ego diminishing sort of thing. But there's so much that could be learned and taught. And now you built this into what it is today with multiple staff and.
Right. So it did not start like that. That was
nobody starts like that.
No. And so here's the thing. When I was in design school, like HGTV was huge.
Right.
And I remember sitting in class like the first day and I'm like, this is not HGTV. Like we had to know technical stuff. We did AutoCAD. We worked on the computer. And I was like, okay, this is not HGTV. Like what's happening here? And if it wasn't just me, my class was like 100 and then we graduated with 25.
OCAD?
I went to the Academy of Design.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I wasn't the only one that was like a little bit shocked because that's how they portray it. But nonetheless, I am a person who sticks through everything. So I graduated and I'm kind of like, okay, now what? And watching this HGTV, very unrealistic of what the design world was really like.
Right.
Like Trading Spaces was like
I remember that.
When they would put like moss on the walls, it was, that is not what I do at all. And then really like very much paving my own way because I didn't have realistic mentors. Like, I couldn't, a lot of people now, influencers didn't exist. There was no such thing as like Instagram. So they can see, and especially for us in my business, we show a lot of our day-to-day. We show a lot of background stuff. My Insta stories are very raw. Like they are not staged. They're not, we don't discuss. If we make a mistake, I'm like, you know what? like let's let people see. But yeah, you didn't really have an insight into like what the design world was when I had started.
Right.
So I really like made every mistake possible. So when you see the crazy things that I get to design now,
right.
There's been 15. No, I started my business in 2008. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
No, there's been, and I say 15 because like the first few years are, you know,
Building.
build like I've had to rebuild multiple times, but yes, building, building, building. But yes, 15 plus years of like really, really pushing and working my way to get to doing these amazing things. And I still have so many more amazing things I want to do.
Like your, I'm going to go on a limb here. You'd answer this better, but you have, I'm sure, clients that live both in Florida
Yep.
and in Toronto,
Yep.
right? I mean, it's a snowbird destination. You've got now, forget people that are like retired or quasi-retired. You got people that are young and have young families that are looking to move. I mean, that's got to be a huge segment that you probably going to capture, right? I mean, but there's different tastes here, different expectations, different building codes, different everything.
So
Right?
one of the things, it's funny. So we were sending out all of our Christmas baskets and holiday baskets to our clients, and we always reach out to make sure like which address we're sending it out to.
Right.
And a huge majority of our clients were like Florida.
Right.
So yeah, so we do have a lot of clients that are here right now. And one of the biggest complaints is finding really reliable trades.
Yes.
And a lot of people are bringing their designers from home and bringing in a lot of trades and mill workers.
I
And
know a lot of people that have done that. I should have done that.
did you hire locally?
Yes, unfortunately. But I was in this like crossfire of like immediately having to buy the first house that fit. And it was a disaster is an understatement.
So if you're a reliable tradesperson, I feel like you should be the biggest builder possible and reach out to me. Like if you're watching and you're a reliable tradesperson, reach out to me because there's so many people who are looking for this and cannot find it. And like, even for me, when they're like, okay, we want to, I have a client who purchased two condos. So one of them is pre-construction, one of them they moved into. And I'm like, okay, I need to get my team together. And obviously I can bring my team from home.
Sure.
But it's just better if there's eyes and feet locally.
Right.
So
is that something you'd be considering? Like, is Toronto, or I say Toronto, Greater Toronto, or Thornhill, is it as bad as I'm telling people it is? Because I haven't been there now for a year and a half. The stuff I'm getting is messages and the stuff that I see. Would you, given the fact that you have families, schools, relationships, businesses, would you make this move?
absolutely.
What would be your number one drive?
So this is obviously probably like a 5-year plan. We're working on some massive projects right now that I obviously want to see through, and they are probably not going to be done for another 2 years. So my feet are still on the ground there, but I think eventually it's going to be here. Also, here's the thing. So Toronto, and again, yes, the Greater Toronto.
Right.
We've always had, and I think Canada probably. I don't want to put Canada in a box, but from what I know, we've always been very conservative. And even when the idea of becoming a designer and speaking to other people, once I was like establishing myself, it was always like how conservative we were with even investing into our homes. And people here have a very different mentality and they live differently.
Totally.
And a lot of people, which is so funny. I'll tell you what's really funny about this. At home, when I say like in Toronto,
right,
you're stuck inside
a lot.
A lot. But here, you guys, why would you want to be stuck inside? Even if it's, today where it's a little bit cloudy, like you want to be outside. But they still entertain and they still put so much value into their homes, even though they're not necessarily in it all the time. Whereas Toronto, I definitely think it's shifted a little bit, especially after COVID. But everyone was so conservative. Like, no, we have to figure out what the land value is. And and a lot of people were pulling money out of their homes because they had the equity in their homes. So it was a very, very, very conservative market. There has been, I will say, a little bit of that shift post-COVID.
Okay.
Because I think people were kind of like, okay, that kitchen that I've hated for the last 15 years, now I'm stuck looking at it all the time. And, when everyone was making bread, like, I don't know if you guys made bread. Yeah. We made
my nanny did, but yeah, there was a trend. There are all kinds of things we did, especially during COVID.
Yeah.
I never thought in a million years I'd be doing.
Right. Like I made bread. I made my own pizza crust. Like we were, you really tried to pass time as like.
It is kids' activities.
Yes.
A lot of the times.
Yeah.
Everything turned into a kids' activity.
Oh, yeah. Well, you had to entertain them.
Right. Everybody was putting in pools as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I have so many stories about pools. Like people I heard were paying an extra like $100,000
just to expedite.
Just like whatever price they were given, they're like, I'll give you an extra $100,000. Like, do my pool
for maybe 4 months of actual usage. Maybe
4 months is
it's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
Yeah, listen, my brother has a pool. He takes full advantage of it. He's had it since pools were cool. Like it was, but still, it's so temporary.
Oh yeah.
We have a pool here, and every once in a while, you guys nothing to do. Okay, just jump in the pool. A lot of people don't want to go out in this weather. They say it's cold, too cold to go to the pool. You have no idea what you're talking about.
No idea.
There's nothing like you can use a pool year round.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Where we can. May is maybe if you get lucky, like one day.
Right.
June too. Like not until you're hitting the end of June. July and August is really the only time that's a guarantee if it's not raining. And then September, like maybe the first couple weeks. So we're really talking about like a solid 2.5 months.
Do you design the outdoor spaces as well?
We do. Like we do work with landscape artists, but we will design we design every part of the house. So we're not landscape artists, and we won't do like the full drawings for the exterior, but we will definitely work with the team, and we're the ones who will like furnish the exterior and kind of bring like the outside spaces or the inside spaces out, but we're still working with like an actual proper landscape team.
Right. And I'm sure you have those resources at your fingertips that are trusted and reliable and stuff like that.
Yes.
People spend a fortune on the outside of their homes here, especially like we have some friends right now that are like, they have a magnificent property and beautiful home, and they're they have like over an acre lot. So the backyard is going to be like an oasis, like incredible. It's pretty exciting stuff. Stuff that in Toronto would be an absolute waste. Outdoor kitchen.
Right. That's the thing. So, we do have like, we call them 3-season spaces. Like they're really called 4 seasons, but the truth is like in the dead of winter, no one's going outside.
Right.
But like you sit outside and you put some heaters out there, but really if you get an hour, you're very lucky. So I feel like, you're stretching it for sure. So I feel like, we're optimistic about creating these outdoor spaces, but they really don't get used that often.
Right.
Or if they are being used, it's for very short periods of time because it does get cold, and who wants to sit outside?
What's Toronto like right now? Like from your perspective of the world, I've been out for, a bit. Like, how would you describe it today?
Oh my God, there's so many avenues. So in particular to my business, I'll tell you what's happening within the world of like construction and that part. And then I'll kind of give you a little bit more of like my personal take on what's happening. So with my business, obviously we've probably about 1.5 years ago, we felt a huge halt to everything to do with like the market, the real estate market, building, investing in your home, all that kind of stuff. There was a huge halt, like where we would get, especially after COVID, we would get like tons of inquiries, tons.
It was
like just
wildfire.
Like I would open my computer, I'd open my email every morning, and it was just like Squarespace, like all these tons. Not all of them, we weren't a match with all of them, which is fine. But what happened was, as soon as they started doing this like rate increase, this mortgage increase, the state of, especially because we come from a very conservative mind frame.
It's ironic that you say that about conservative in a conservative state where Canada is run by a liberal government. But describe what you mean, like conservative. Like they're not risk takers.
They're not risk takers.
They don't do anything that's colorful or.
Oh God, no! Oh my God! Like Toronto was known, especially when I came into the industry, as like beige. It was like beige on beige with like a little bit of like darker beige.
Now it's all white kitchens and everybody.
No, I don't do white kitchens.
No, you don't.
Like I'll never do a solid color kitchen anyways. So if it's white, it's usually a mix with something, but
So you have your own like signature look
absolutely.
that is Erica Gelman. This is you. When you walk into a house you design, you know that you're the one who did it.
Yes, I think so. Also, you'll know when we've had complete creative control on a project, and when you're like seeing the spaces that I put up on Instagram and our website, like you'll look at a project and you'll be like, wow.
Right.
That's when we've had complete creative control. There was no stopping. There was no limitations for whatever reason. And then there's projects that like you can see that there was a little bit of like
Intervention.
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we've gotten to a point where at this point clients are coming to us because they want that look. So if there's ever like revisions, it's usually for more like practicality purposes, not so much design, because they're trusting our vision. They're coming to us for that vision. Right. So you're really doing a disservice to yourself if you're paying me and then coming to me with your ideas.
Correct.
So kind of getting back to
sorry. You were saying they were conservative, but yes, but like I want to know the direction of what you see in Toronto.
So what happened was where we had a complete halt. Really, like it was a little bit scary. Like I think I had a conversation with probably every single person I know in the industry, and they're like, "Are you getting inquiries?"
I still have my real estate team in Toronto. It is like,
oh yeah, like it's
standstill.
That's the thing too. You can't buy right now. You cannot buy anything. You could be sitting on money, and you could be like, "I want to buy something. I want to spend," and there is nothing to buy.
Right.
But people got really scared. Nobody wanted to do anything, and then probably about a year or so ago, we started getting really big inquiries. So it was people who didn't just have money either sitting in their homes or had a little bit that they wanted to spend. It was wealth. It was now a huge shift where people with real wealth that they were sitting on or accumulated or whatever it is, they were now into like our average home that we're building is probably about 10,000 square feet average. Like I have two that are hitting 18,000.
Are they homes or are they cottages? Are they both?
So we're doing one, we call it a compound. It's a cottage on Lake Rosso there. And it is, oh my God, it is like literally on the bend. So the clients are building a kids cottage. So they're putting their grown-up kids in that cottage. They have their own cottage. There's 2 boathouses. There's a sports pavilion, and then there's like an apartment. So the apartment is just extra bedrooms. And then where they have their staff will stay there, like their full-time year-round staff will stay in the upstairs little apartment.
What people don't realize about a place like Lake Rosso, it is one of the most sought after lakes in Canada.
Right.
Like it's real.
So we're building a compound. We're building a compound there. But yeah, so that's the only cottage. The other 2, so one is, they're both about 18,000, like give or take. Square feet. One of them is a home for single family. And then with that, they have 3 younger kids. And then one of them is a home that actually 2 brothers, they're inseparable. And they're like, why would we live in separate houses? Luckily, their wives love each other.
Luckily.
And so we're building this like massive home for their multi-families.
Okay. Oh, but like a single family like all day home or a cottage?
No, it's there. It's going to be.
Oh, wow.
Home. Wow. Yeah, but they're like, they don't want to be separated from each other.
And what area is this?
So it is like it's almost at like Caledon.
Okay.
So it's like Brampton on the way to Caledon.
A giant estate.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, I think 3 acres, if I'm not mistaken.
How do people like that define you? Is it word of mouth? Is it your social media?
Social media.
At the end, I want you to leave your credentials so people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. Social media has been huge for my business. Right. Huge. I started just putting it out there. Like, and I was actually getting into the business. I was horrible at self-promotion. Like people would be like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "I'm a designer." And if you couldn't hear me, it's because I was whispering.
Right.
I would hear somebody talking about, "Oh yeah, like I'm thinking of redoing my kitchen," and I would never step up. Where now I'm like, I don't know if I would do it at this point, but like probably 5 years ago, absolutely, I'd be like, "Oh well, have you seen my work?" Do you know who I am? So now social media has been that self-promotion. It's obviously a little bit awkward when you start, but then you get into it and then you really get excited about sharing. So I think that there's like a little bit of a misconception there too of like, you're only self-promoting, but no, it's sharing. And it's like not everyone is going to hire a designer. Not everyone should hire a designer. Some people have a budget and they should
We shouldn't hire a designer.
if you don't have a realistic budget. And I say that because a lot of people, and I've seen this from very early on in my career, and then even for, I would say like even within the last 5, 6 years, people have this idea, oh, I'm going to bring in a designer, and they can't actually afford what they see this designer do. So they try to do shortcuts on everything. Well, okay, I don't need to, we don't need to have that exact look, but that's why you're hiring me. So once you start taking away layers of my space, you are no longer getting the EGD look. You're not. And I get unhappy, they get unhappy, and it's just an unrealistic expectation from the client's end. And it's, what, I take responsibility now that too, there really should be a lot more on the designer to educate clients coming in about where their realistic budgets and expectations should be. But if you cannot actually afford it, you shouldn't do it because you won't be happy at the end. Hire really, really good. Like don't try to do this with your budget. Like don't try to make it into an elastic band and then it snaps. Really try to invest in like an amazing mill worker. Incredible mill workers. Get inspired. Go on Pinterest. Like really like dive deep into where your style is and where you want it to be and what you want to evoke in your home, and then hire really good people, and then don't hire the designer if you can't afford them.
I being in real estate in many different ways, I think good designers are actually pay for themselves because they can access trades. They can access product. They can save you time, which is not enough people put value in that. I mean, the compound that you're building, can you imagine the people that are, that are the end user? I mean, I'm assuming they're very busy in what they do in everyday lives. They can't do this on their own. So, there's tons of value in that too. But I know exactly what you're saying on the other end, where people want a certain look. But like they want to drive a Ferrari, but they're like, I'm going to pay for a Honda.
Right.
Right.
So don't walk into the Ferrari dealership. Maybe walk into the Ferrari dealership, get inspired on color.
Got it.
But don't try to sit and negotiate for a Honda budget. And there's nothing wrong with not having a designer.
Yeah, of course.
There is not. So there shouldn't be the stigma attached like, oh, I did it myself because I can't afford it. Okay, so you can't afford it. Like, it's really like, it's not, there really shouldn't be a negative to it. It should just be realistic. Like, I feel like people need to realistically understand going into a project, how much everything is going to cost.
Sure.
And sometimes not bringing in that designer and there are designers that will do a little bit of hand holding, and you can bring them in for, maybe some like consulting or, hourly rates, like here and there.
Do that?
No, we don't. We work on full service. So very much from beginning to end, we work with an architectural team, and then we execute, like we literally move our clients into our homes, into their homes. I say our homes. I still feel like they're mine. They're my babies. Like they're my babies for like 2 years. We move them in. We're involved in every single aspect of the design and design management.
I could see how that could be incredibly useful. I mean, I've been involved in so many projects myself, but like, I totally get it. I wish I had something like that here, right? But I didn't have anyone I could trust. Same with the trades, same with everything. Same with the realtor. I had the worst realtor, and I've been in this game since, my entire adult life. And it is so key to have that. Like, my realtor made glaring mistakes that may or may not, I don't know specifically, cost me a couple of $100,000. Because, bidding wars in Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. It's a blind bid. You submit your offer. The only people that get to see it are the sellers, right? Here, if you put in contingency and escalation clause like I put in, and I only found this out when it was way too late when I got my broker's license. If you say you're going to beat the top offer by 5 Gs, they have to legally show you the other offer. Or they don't do that in Toronto.
No.
Right? My agent got played, and the agent on the other side said, well, this is the number you need to put in. My agent didn't advise me of that. Said, yeah, well, put in this number. That's what you need to put in. Whereas all I had to do is put a contingency. I don't know how much I outbid the other person by. I have no idea. I might have paid $100,000, $200,000 over. And they didn't do a bunch of other things after the fact, but like, yeah. And then when I called them out on it, they told me to fly a kite.
Wow.
That wasn't the words they used, but yeah, needless to say, I won't use them again. It was a great learning experience. Now anyone who calls me, like, I know what mistakes not to make because I learned it on my own. Right. It's a different ball game here. Like, people speak the same language, but it's a different psychology is different. You talk to friends that are moved down here, they'll probably use things like quality of life is higher. Yes. That's a common thing that you hear. And I say that all the time. I'm like, it's hard to restart. It's hard to rebuild. Mm-hmm. No matter how established you are, everything is foreign in the beginning. It's a very unique way of living. I mean, your parents are immigrant. My parents are immigrants, and they did it without any money or even language.
Yeah.
Right. But they had a big why, and they had to have a better life for their family. So they did that. That's my perspective here. This is why we took such a massive risk, but you have more potential here if you're willing to hustle. And when you are at least at par, which I don't believe you ever will be, because I'm so reinvigorated and stressed, and stress isn't necessarily a bad thing, that I'm going to do better. And when I say I'm talking now strictly financial means, like, once that happens, I'd rather be living here 10,000 times out of 100. Like, I don't even want to think about Toronto anymore. The stuff that I've been seeing lately on social media as well, it is crazy.
So
it's dangerous.
That was going to be so business-wise, that's what was happening. Personally,
security is an issue now.
So where I live. We live in, it used to be like a really sought out neighborhood, young families, really like just everything that you think of, a place where you want to raise your kids, like just a really beautiful community. It's not like that anymore.
No, but what's the reason for that?
So everything is so expensive, but just ridiculously expensive for everybody, for every single person. And so because of that, crime is insane. But I'm not talking about murders. I'm talking about,
how many times have your car been stolen?
Okay.
I'm serious.
Yes.
Oh, my brother has now mechanisms about his car, and on his street, and my parents' street, I don't know, 30 cars this month.
So we had a Yukon, and I say we had a Yukon Excel. We have a big family. At one point we had a double stroller. Like, that was our family car. And it gave my husband, I think it took off like 10 years of my husband's life, because he was glued to our cameras. We had to install more cameras. Our car, since last February, and we got rid of it a couple weeks ago, 10 attempts, 10. One of them, it actually was stolen. We had an air tag, so it was recovered. Never recover a stolen car. They cut the computer system, so it had to sit at the dealership for 2 months. It was horrible. We got it back. While we got it back, so we got a Tahoe rental. They tried to steal that one too. It's like they messaged each other. They're like, okay, this street, this number, go. 10 attempts. So finally we got rid of the car. And which I didn't want to. I love that car. Like, my family was so comfortable in that car. Right. Break and enters are insane. Oh, really? Oh my God. We actually had to.
I didn't hear a lot about that. That's got to be fairly new.
Especially so I want to put it out there. Like, I don't live in a quote unquote bad neighborhood, or It wasn't a bad neighborhood. It was I would say the pinnacle of like family living.
Right.
We had to install a film on all of our windows, and it creates basically this like extra barrier, so you can't break the window easily. It eventually does break, but it takes a lot of time for it to break. And so we did it. Tons of our friends are doing it. Tons of our neighbors. So, and like, this company is telling us, like, they're like, we're booming because you're not the only ones. And I don't want to live like that. Like, I don't want to live with film on my windows, but
Can you
unfortunately,
disclose the company name?
yeah, it's called, they go by GS2.
Okay.
It's Glass Solutions. And
Because I know I got a lot of people from Canada still listening to this, especially from our neighborhood. Like I lived about 5 minutes drive from where you live in the same area. So we would have done for sure. We had conversations about doing in advance before we left, but we're like, we're leaving. I'm not doing any more to the house.
yeah.
For sure. Like it's crazy. So break-ins, car thefts. I would have had an issue with kids' security and private school at this point. I mean, if I was still there.
So my kids luckily are in private school. Um, yeah, and it's good, but
Are you worried about security?
there's a police officer.
Oh, is there?
Oh yeah, like at Sasha school, there's a police officer. Like they know him. They say good morning to him every morning.
It's the same police officer.
I think they like have rotation, but I think it's kind of like the same. Probably who's ever like on shift that week.
Right.
And there's another school across the street. They also have a police officer. There's security, like way more security. At my kids' daycare.
If I would have told you this, forget COVID. COVID was,
right.
If I would have told you that your kids would have needed security, you would have had to worry about protecting the glass on your. If I would have told you this 3 years ago about Thornhill specifically, you would have told me I'm a lunatic.
Absolutely.
Like it's like family oriented, safe. People didn't even always lock their doors. Everyone knew their neighbors. It's not like that anymore.
No.
That's why people are leaving.
No, we have an alarm outside of our house that if you come near where our car was parked, but now it's basically like anywhere near our front door, between I think it's like 12 and 5 or 6 a.m. because now the criminals are brazen. Like they come at 6 a.m. There's people walking their dogs. They still come. The alarm will go off, and like the neighbors should hear. It's a big alarm.
Why do you think that is?
I think people are just really looking for ways to make more money. Like
they're also clearly not afraid of the cops.
They're not. Oh my gosh! So there's all these. I'm sure, like on Facebook and like all these neighborhood watch like apps. I think it's called like My Next Door Neighbor. And they're all like, okay, yeah, they get arrested, and then they're set free, like momentarily.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
So what happens when you commit a crime?
Like nothing.
Seriously?
Pretty much nothing.
Yo, it's different here. And I'll tell you, especially when it comes to that stuff, people here have guns. Everybody has guns. So you'll also notice it when you're driving up and down the streets. You're not as quick to honk the horn if somebody's taking an extra couple of seconds to take a left turn or whatever, or texting and not moving, because in the back of your mind, you're like, maybe somebody here is armed. Like in my community, I know a bunch of people are walking around, their kids are playing outside, carry conceal. They have it on them.
And that doesn't scare you?
No. So in a world that didn't have any firearms, I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm okay without a world without that. But in a world where that exists, I'm very happy to know that responsible gun owners and people that own firearms legally are responsible gun owners and are there as a counterbalance to the bad people, right? I don't think all these car thefts and this lackadaisical approach to crime would have happened in Toronto if people were armed. There'd be, you wouldn't see these protesters just willy-nilly bullying people randomly wherever they want, blocking off the 401 and Avenue Road just because they felt like it, because they're trying to make a statement. The other trade-off to that, there's something called the stand your ground rule. If somebody enters your house and is up to something no good, shoot them and you'll get away with it.
Yeah, so that is the complete opposite.
Bingo.
At home. My husband opened the door when we got the notification, because everything comes to our phone. We got notification that there was criminals on our driveway trying to break into the car. So we it's the middle of the night. No one's thinking. He's like literally in his underwear. Goes and he runs and he opens the door. And anyone you tell the story to, they're like, "Oh my God, are you crazy?" Like, anything he does, he's the one who's going to jail.
Right, for standing up for himself.
Right.
And if
you're coming onto my property. My
Right.
kids are sleeping. You've broken a window, or you're trying to break the window in my car. And I'm at fault.
And this is what people don't understand. It is the, amongst a soup of so many other things, why people that are very comfortable and happy in a place like Toronto are considering moving and are moving. Like, I think the last thing I read was like 420,000 people have left Canada this year alone. And yet the population goes up. So you do the math of who's actually coming in. But, I think next time you're back, I want to have you back on the podcast, because I want you to kind of like tell me where you are in your journey, and who knows what that will be if you're actually making the transition. Yeah. If anybody wants to find you, how do they contact you?
Instagram is where I'm at every day. It's Erica_Gelman, Gelman. Instagram, find me on Instagram. And I run the Instagram account. So I'm the one, and I say this all the time, like, if you send me a DM, I am the one who's answering. It's me. I have a whole team, but it's me. I still want to be that, like, I don't want to just be the name. Like, I really want to be the person behind the account. So if you want to touch base and want to reach out and chat, that's where you can find me.
So anyone's looking for some design work and wants to bring someone reliable, tried and tested from Toronto, and wants to see what her work would be like here in South Florida, hit her up. Thank you so much for stopping by. A lot of fun. It was good to see you.
I have so much more to say.
We have I knew this was going to happen, but I mean, I've found now that a bunch of people that have been on, they're just so fascinating. I've now had part twos. And you're here on vacation, but I'm living life. So it's hard to kind of like to manage all this, but I promise you, we will definitely do this again. And then you could probably update us on your status and what's going on.
Yeah, we have something really exciting happening next year. I can't say what it is. It's a really big media something.
When will it be public?
Honestly, in 1 year from now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I want to be back before then. We also have a rug line coming out. So
a rug line?
Yes. So we'll talk more about that.
Well, quickly, you would plug it.
So we've been working on it for 2 years. This is not something that I'm just putting out there. Like, I really want it to be super authentic and so meaningful to the brand. But they're completely custom sizes. They're completely custom qualities. So there's different types that we're working with. But we're going to be launching it within, I would say, the next few months.
So we'll discuss it next time you come back on. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.